他的牌，直接刚上去，刚才这里碰了进。
So, folks, yes, as per expected, per their modus operandi of NPR as usual, it is they have now suspended their longtime NPR veteran Uri Berliner. Now he's been with them doing NPR for about 25 years. But yes, after his interview with Barry Weiss last week, where he says, well, we really just became an echo chamber after we all got Trump derangement syndrome. And he says, virtually nobody is a conservative or libertarian, even at this point at NPR. And so, per fashion and as expected, they have suspended Uri Berliner. What else would you expect from these people? Not much else, because we heard how they basically ostracized anybody who would have a differing point of view. They would not be part of the NPR family. Okay, so that diversity thing is not true. That they love to spout that diversity and inclusion, but really it's an exclusive club. Yes, and I did a video on this recently that was quite long, but I wanted to show some of their past history too. That this wasn't something recent. This started a long time ago. So I can see why they endorse censorship. And so recently, longtime public radio veteran Uri Berliner made the headlines when he published a lengthy critique of how, in his view, the publicly funded news and entertainment outlet had become an echo chamber of an almost exclusively progressive worldview, largely by having hired nearly exclusively progressive employees. This assertion has since been met with intense pushback both from NPR CEO Catherine Marr, as well as many of the rank-and-file employees of NPR. Despite all of the angry complaints from inside NPR, it had appeared that no disciplinary action was going to take place against Berliner. But today, we learned that as of last Friday, Uri Berliner has been suspended from his duties at the NPR business desk. Punishment is a core value. They don't have any values on the left, but punishment is a core value. They sure as hell want you to be part of the cult. And if you deviate to the slightest, even in the interview, Uri Berliner really wasn't that bad. You could tell he was trying to be careful, but it was obviously he was revealing a little bit of the truth. He was like, well, we kind of messed up a little bit there. No. If you say anything that deviates slightly, just the slightest, no, you will be suspended, as he has been today. We learned that as of last Friday, Uri Berliner has been suspended from his duties at the NPR business desk. He's been suspended from the public radio network he served for 25 years after sharing concerns about bias in the free press. And what always gets me is Uri Berliner is one of these guys that's been with them for 25 years. He probably helped grow the station. Obviously, Peabody Award-winning senior editor at NPR. Now, in this day and age, we don't know what award-winning means, because it seems like awards just simply go to whatever narrative is the most acceptable among Democratic circles. NPR itself has also published a news article about the internal action. Now, they do this as a way to tell you why, and they're excusing their actions. Veteran NPR editor Uri Berliner suspended as network grapples with fallout over his essay. And you can tell when they say fallout, what this means is they're more afraid of the conservative backlash, and backlash, believe it or not, from Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump. Listen, Donald Trump's, you guys are still on this Trump derangement syndrome. Obviously, it never was cured. And so as you can see here, because they are worried about that. And so, of course, when in this article, when you dig into NPR's telling of their side of the story, the real sin of the Berliner's piece was that it gave fresh ammunition to conservative and partisan Republican critics of NPR, including former President Trump. So it's blatantly clear that the execs and staff of NPR haven't learned a darn thing from this entire debacle and are just mad that people know about what's going on behind the walls of the, again, publicly funded organization. The suspension is for, this is again quoting from the article, failing to secure its approval for outside work for other news outlets as is required of NPR journalists. So that's just, they're just calling him out for wrong speak, okay? That he actually had an interview and revealed actually what was going on behind the scenes. You know, he was actually offering what journalism doesn't do now, which is more a balanced view, saying, this is what's kind of going on behind the scenes. I mean, people were affected, like when Trump got voted and Hillary did not win. People were scathing mad. They were angry. They were depressed. All this stuff, because for them it was so unexpected. Not so much unexpected to me. It's so much that they were so out of touch with the rest of America, and that seems to have happened in a lot of places. So Heather Champion says here, something tipped Uri over the edge. Let him have his say. Nothing screams nonpartisan like suspending the guy that called you partisan. I know nothing says like free speech and a democratic news organization like censoring your own people and just not allowing any other viewpoints. That's the thing. NPR always touted themselves as the reasonable news people. The Terry Gross voice with the voice of reason, that pseudo-academic. Let's sit here, let's cross our legs in these seats and let's have a forum. Okay? Nothing screams nonpartisan like suspending this guy. Will he be paraded on a stage and be forced to beg for mercy while his family denounces him in their own struggle sessions? Yes, struggle session is the key word. If you don't know what a struggle session is, yeah, it was invented during the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution by Mao Zedong in China. And essentially what it was they called it a struggle session. And if you don't know, what they did is they would, somebody who wasn't doing exactly what the party line wanted, especially when it came to peasants or landowners, they would trudge them out in public and beat them or berate them. And they would have family members, they would force family members to berate them and have them like reject whatever they said or deny that they had said it. And it involved torture, it involved beatings, and it was a public humiliation ritual, essentially. So it seems a bit much, perhaps, but we wouldn't be surprised if they haven't already started making Berliner and other heterodox thinkers to the NPR worldview sit in for a few 2 minutes hate session. And what is that? Hold on, let's see what this is. The 2-minute hate session. Oh, yes. That's from 1984. The 2 minutes hate is the daily period during which members of the outer and inner party of Oceania must watch a film depicting Goldstein, the principal enemy of the state, and his followers, the Brotherhood, and loudly voice their hatred for the enemy and then their love for Big Brother. Yes, okay. So I hope you realize, Jeff A. says, I hope you realize how bad this looks to the general public. This just confirms what we knew. Berliner he opened that up and we were like, well, that's what we thought NPR was doing, that they were involved in trying to silence others, that they were involved in, they are completely partisan. They're completely far, far left at this point. And this is another nail in the coffin for National Public Radio. Thank heavens. But this is kind of confirms what we knew. The fact that they punished Uri Berliner for speaking out about this in probably the gentlest, kindest terms confirms what we already knew, that this is, if you speak out against the regime, you will be punished. And what did they do? They punished him, okay, for introducing other points of view. I hope you realize how bad this looks to the general public. This is Jeff A. A truth teller exposes NPR's bias, and instead of responding directly to the legitimate criticism, NPR suspends the individual, thus confirming what we already suspected about progressive leftists anyway, and these news organizations who push this stuff. This confirms it. This is legitimate criticism. NPR suspends the individual who told the truth and doesn't directly respond to any of his constructive criticism. NPR is a federally funded activist organization that serves a tiny slice of affluent, overwhelmingly white progressives who live in a bubble cut off from how the rest of Americans live. It should serve all Americans, not just rich white ones. And this is probably the best comment I've seen yet. I'm going to actually mark that because that is one of the best comments. This person says only a small percentage of this funding comes from the federal government. It is mostly funded by philanthropic organizations and local corporations to get that. And that's actually not true, because in my other video, they actually... it was another magazine. No, it was the Washington Post. So another leftist news organization. They actually said 17% of their funding in total comes from the federal government. So these people who play interference on behalf of them, Stacey Awesome, as they said here, that's not such an awesome take, because yeah, we just went through that. And the Washington Post themselves said 17% went towards NPR's funding. So yeah, people like to say that, oh, very little comes, but if you look into it, in the end, there's kind of a chunk, and it's taxpayer money, so please. So $8 Bartamy says, so it looks like NPR has chosen the path of doing the same thing and doubling down on woke leftist religion and enforcing leftist religious orthodoxy using our tax dollars. Defund NPR needs to be on Trump's to-do list in 2025. It probably is. That list is like a U-Haul receipt at this point. Trump's list of getting rid of various departments and publicly funded these publicly funded news organizations and the three-letter departments. Oh my gosh. So NPR, for its part, often makes the claim when this is brought up that very little of its budget comes from federal funding. Exactly as I said, despite others frequently pointing out how misleading this claim is. So just to be clear, official government radio has punished one of its employees for engaging in free expression protected by the First Amendment. And you also have that other little thing about freedom of the press too, both being abused. I hope Uri Berliner sues them for every public dollar they get. Yeah, so he just said, with declining ratings, levels of trust, and an audience that has become less diverse over time, the trajectory for NPR is not promising. And that's usually it. The more well-to-do white progressives are really what they have as their listeners now. I mean, you ask some Latino dude or some black dude, does he listen to NPR? Very, very few. Okay. No, it's not a diverse station. And he's exactly right. Two paths seem clear, as he says. We can keep doing what we're doing, hoping it will all work out, or we could start over with the basic building blocks of journalism. We could face up to where we've gone wrong. News organizations don't go in for that kind of reckoning, but there's a good reason for NPR to be the first. We're the ones with the word public in our name. Wow, he nailed it with that one. Okay, I give him kudos for that. I give him kudos for actually going, we don't have a balanced perspective in our newsroom. We just don't. You know, there's some great people. And he said this, he's like, there's some great people that have worked there, some excellent journalists, but we did not do our job. And now NPR is putting him through the struggle session of public humiliation, right? NPR did some soul searching and found the guy who told the truth about what NPR has become was the problem. Yeah, good job. You failed at the soul searching and the moral inventory part. You simply went, well, accountability. Yeah, maybe that is true. You know what we should do? We should punish this guy for using his freedom of speech. We should punish this dude and suspend him. So their response to him saying dissent is not tolerated at NPR was to suspend him for criticizing their political agenda, taxpayer funded. Again, NPR, they just confirmed what Uri Berliner said the other day by suspending him and punishing him for this. So again, for now, it appears that Berliner's punishment has been relatively light, but we wouldn't bet the farm on this being the only punishment that Catherine Marr meets out before this is all over. From the looks of it, it doesn't appear that Uri Berliner is the type who's going to quiet down and just keep his head down to keep his job. So we'll see how things turn out on this. This is a story that seems almost inevitable that it will keep chugging along. And okay, let's see here. Let's see, NPR is not in the Constitution. Look it up. Yeah, this Florida man keeps pushing back on these people. Take out NPR and progressives, replace NPR with SCOTUS, and you've really got something there. Florida man responds by saying NPR is not in the Constitution. Look it up. So yeah, I mean, keep trying. You're doing good, folks. But Florida man is kind of throwing it back at you. It's time to go for NPR's funding. Legacy media is dead in America. Yeah, like I said, this is just another big nail in the coffin for NPR. NPR has lost public trust for good reason. Let's see here. For good reason. Their response to legitimate criticism from one of their own is to silence that voice. End all public funding for public radio now. They do not serve the public. They serve only themselves. Somebody said the bigger problem is I see that there are still large segments of the American public that actually trust NPR. Yeah, that's a sad state of affairs. So it looks like NPR has chosen the path of doing the same thing and doubling down on woke leftist religion and enforcing leftist religious orthodoxy using our tax dollars. Yeah, okay, so I read that before, but I want to enhance this point that what this represents is a religious movement. We know that. The woke, new atheist, leftist, Marxist religious movement. It's pretty much just one orthodoxy at this point, and it's created a cult based on blind faith in the system here. And so when you have a cult, the most dangerous thing is to have anybody start to go, you know, maybe this isn't, maybe not, we're not 100% on track. Maybe we're not 100% right here. And in this life here, like, you should be wary of anything that says it's 100% right or that our narrative is the only truth. These are things to be questioned by far, and that's where Uri Berliner is. And so he was pulled into this. I'm sure 25 years ago, he probably wasn't thinking about this so much, but now, because of after the Trump derangement syndrome that happened in 2016, after that, now he's suddenly like, oh crap, I'm stuck in this cult. What do I do? Keep your head down, keep yourself under the radar, and until now. And you can see immediately he gets the guillotine for this. It's okay. Once NPR is defunded, nobody else will work there either. 100 million taxpayer dollars to fund Democrat propaganda, defund state-sponsored media, pull the plug on federal funding for the NPR shit show. NPR confirms what Uri Berliner said by suspending him, and thus his very suspension verifies the truth of this article. The left never tolerates any dissent in any way, shape, or form. So you get the point, folks. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this. I think it's an interesting ongoing saga, and we will see in the end if NPR's shadow goes down into the twilight. We just don't know right now, but definitely they have proven their point that they have proven Uri Berliner's point that they do not tolerate any type of other narrative than their own. So we will see how this happens, and maybe Uri will be taken off suspension. We just don't know. Anyway, I'll continue with this in the coming weeks. So thanks for watching. Put a like on the video if you like it, and please subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.